to go ahead and kick things off today. So if you guys saw the updates, today's training is going to be around how we present our solutions during the phase 3 portion of Blue Equinox's audit process. So after we have teed up the opportunity, after we've asked our questions, and I'll run everybody through that really quick so you guys can see all the steps that we will have completed that lead up to this conversation with the influencer, the decision makers inside a company, so that we can get our IT solutions that we offer, how we can get those proposed and then closed so that we can get that MRR billing and on the books and building the profitability that we want to see. So feel free to chime in and ask questions. This is going to be for me, this is like breathing. So I want this to be just a laid back, fun conversation that you guys can take away either for yourselves. If you're a sales guy, this is how you should be doing it. If you're one of our MSP partners in our program, this is what you can expect to see during the phase 3 of how these guys are going to position you as the provider of choice to be what the customer ends up moving forward with. So with that said, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show and share a bunch of different documents that are super relevant to this phase 3 meeting. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through how we get to this phase 3 meeting to begin with. Okay, so it all starts with someone has to reach out to this customer through email, phone call, LinkedIn, some form of communications so that they can tee up this customer opportunity to begin with. And I'm still letting folks in here. So that starts with a phone call, an email, like I said, and here's what the appointment setters are going to be planning the seat up. And this is really important for everybody in the Blue Equinox business model to have a full comprehensive understanding of, right? Because the seed that we plant at the very beginning of the conversation is just going to get watered, right? And we're going to see that seed grow to where now that seed has become a full-blown concept that the customer is buying off on and they want to move forward with. So what you guys are looking at here is the landing page of what our appointment setters are sharing with potential customers on the very front end of when we reach out to them. And it revolves around our process of how we do what we do as a IT service provider around managed services, backup cloud solutions, and then cybersecurity, applications protection, and compliance, right? Compliance is the big word that is new, that is really hitting a nerve with IT customers, and it is justifying the need for the CISO services. So Chief Information Security Officer packages start at $1,400 a month. MRR on a 1-year to 3-year contract, 3 years what we go for, and that's just for to oversee the compliancy, right? If there's more CISO responsibilities, those hours will go up. They're contracted and they're just extremely profitable for the MSP. But they're sharing this link and they're walking the customer through how we are going to educate and inform them on why this fractional CISO to oversee cyber and compliancy is so important to their organization. All right, it's going to guarantee them that they're checking the boxes and creating the paper trail for compliancy. And our website, right, when these appointment setters are speaking with them, it supports this story, right? 100% supports this story. So then the customer says, you know what, this is exactly what I need. I'm going to agree to meet with one of your CIO level consultants who are then going to come in and we're going to run the phase 1 meeting. At that point, that's when you guys will see this customer fact sheet come through for you. So this is a customer appointment set by Ryan Adams for Logan in Vegas with a CIO with a company with 700 employees. You can see here, he didn't really express an interest, a willingness to have a conversation. He didn't want the meeting, but then we drilled into cybersecurity, and that interested him enough to take the meeting. So that's what our lead gen, our marketing team, that's what they're trained to do, right? To create the opportunity. Once that happens, then the brand ambassador runs the phase 1 meeting, does all of these things before, during, and after the sales meeting with the customer, ask the questions, then the MSP is pulled into the conversation, right? Here's the agenda of the phase 2 meeting. We run the phase 2 meeting. We position ourselves to then go on site and to do the scans, right? We've got this protocol where the phase 2 tees up the on-site visit to run the scans, to create the cybersecurity assessment that is a paid engagement if the customer does not move forward with us. So again, very important that we set these expectations during the phase 2, that the customer is going to have the option for us to come on site, run scans to complete the full cybersecurity assessment so that we can make recommendations during the phase 3 that are going to solve their biggest problems. So all of that has been done for today's training purposes. So we'll have other trainings on the 2.5 on the phase 2, breaking those down. But today we're going to hone in and focus on the phase 3. Once we've did all of that work together, all the information that puts us in a position to propose and close services. Okay, now with that said, the very first thing that we do when we start a phase 3, the very first thing is we have to be likable. We train on being likable and being relevant with a customer. If a customer doesn't like you, right, it's going to make selling them anything, closing them on business way harder. So as much as we might like to just jump into the conversation and go, okay, Mr. Customer, we're all here, let's jump in, let's get started, we have to use those icebreakers. And during the phase 1, we train brand ambassadors to get the customer to talk about the thing they like the most, which is themselves. So during the phase 1, the customer is going to tell us how they got to where they're at, what their hobbies are, their family, right? Those are all precursors that we can piggyback off of during the phase 3 when we come back into the conversation. So an example is this guy, he got out of college, he came straight to work for this company. He's been there for 12 years. He worked his way up to the CFO level position in the company. He's married to Jenny and they got 3 kids. We start the conversation with Jenny, the kids, maybe something that was talked about during the last meeting before we jump in, okay? We've all heard this before, but I see time and time again where when we go into a presentation meeting with a customer and there's money on the line, the salesperson's excited, the MSP's excited about potential billing revenue, that everybody gets stressed and we want to just jump right in. We've got to relax the customer and get them talking about something that they enjoy outside of IT, because no matter how important this is to us, right, it probably isn't the thing that they care the most about. It may be the thing that's the most important now that we've educated and informed them, but they really don't want to be having this conversation. So loosen them up with some icebreakers, and then after that 2 to 3 minutes of icebreaker conversation, we then jump into, right, how we're going to reiterate the pain and present our solution. So icebreakers have been talked about, the customer's laughing, we're having a good time. Now we want to start the phase 3 presentation. So the very first thing that we want to do when we go into a phase 3 conversation is we want to set the expectations with the customer that, all right, Mr. Customer, today we're going to present to you the results of all of our findings. Okay, and just to pull down the agenda, I'm going to move this back up here in a second. The agenda of the conversation is we're going to start with some icebreakers. We're then going to revisit the pain, the risk, the liability, the exposure. So the wound is reopened. We've got to reopen the wound before we start talking about a solution. Otherwise, they don't have that emotional connection to why this is even important. Okay. Like customers forget things. You have to repeat things that you say during the meeting up to 3 times is what I say. You want to repeat things 3 times so it just literally beats it into their head so that they can remember. Otherwise, it goes one in one ear and out the other. Like ADD is a real thing. People have it. I know I do. So we're going to pull up the picture. We're going to revisit everything that we've covered. And then once we've done that, to substantiate why we did the on-site visit, why we did the scans, why we created a cybersecurity assessment, we'll then jump into those. And then from there, we've prepared our solutions and recommendations, and we're going to talk about the pros and the caveats of those. We're going to educate and inform you on why we're making those recommendations, on what we feel like you need to level up your IT services, your technology, your cybersecurity, your compliance, all the things that we're going to recommend to you. We're going to substantiate those. And then after that, we're going to talk about the roadmap and where we go from here. And we're going to get the customers' input and get them engaged and pre-close them on what matters to them most. And then lastly, we're going to make it really easy for them to say yes. I don't care how great your solution is. If it feels like it's going to be a heavy lift, if it feels like it's going to take a ton of time away from their day job, right, then they're going to try to procrastinate and they're going to try to delay, right, what may be something that is extremely important because they can't be 2 places at once. So what we want to do is we want to make it really easy for them to say yes. And I'm going to show you guys how we do that. So this is the agenda. And we're going to walk through this now. Okay. So, very first thing, revisiting the pain. So this is a customer deal that from time to time, I'll run an audit just to prove out our processes, our procedures, and to really just make sure I still got it. And have a little fun just getting into the weeds of doing the job of IT consulting. So this customer, primary color, Southern California, I have a fantastic relationship here. They have an IT director, they have a VP of technology, and they have a CFO, right? And then she has 2 people internally on her team. So this ended up being a hybrid solution where we sold a bunch of other applications that they needed to add on, which I'll get to that. But to start the phase 3, right, Mr. Customer, just want to kick things off, revisiting where we ended up at the end of our phase 2 meeting before, right, we came on site, we did the scans, and we created the full cyber assessment. And as you can see here from our conversations and getting your agreement, managed services was a red flag, right? It was a stop sign that we needed to stop, and we needed to create a solution that would take that from red to green. Your IT projects and how you got those completed, that was a red flag. Your backup in DR, right, that was yellow, but it was on the verge of being red from our conversations. You really wanted to look at an alternative solution to what you were doing at the time with Veeam and replication. Your printers, your scanners, you had nobody to take care of that for you. Your cybersecurity was non-existent. You really didn't have anything in place from a proactive cybersecurity perspective. Compliance wasn't even on your radar at the time. And then you can see here some of those other commodity services like voice and data and SD-WAN. You were just, after we talked through those, you were drastically overspending. You weren't getting the support that you needed. And there's probably an economical benefit for you to transition those over to something that just makes way more sense and can free up dollars to be used for some of these more critically important services. So would you agree that after our phase 2, this is where we left things, Mr. Customer? What was that right there? One of my brand ambassadors that's on the training today, when I asked that question, what's that called? What's an example of that question where I asked the question we know the answer to?
A leading question. You already know the answer. It's you're bringing him to yes by helping training him to say yes and showing him how easy it is.
And Derek, what do we call those?
That's a yes question.
It's a yes question, baby. I'm asking you something that there's no way on the planet, unless you just want to sound stupid, that you're going to say what I expect you to say. It is a yes question. And you want to train yourself to ask yes questions as many times throughout a conversation, a presentation as possible, and to know where those opportunities are going to present themselves. The way that we train salespeople is to know the script, right? No meeting is scripted entirely, but there's a framework of how you run that meeting. And if we go back to, just to bounce back over here to give you perspective on that, check this out. This is the framework before a phase one, during a phase one, after a phase one, right? Before, during, and after a phase two, so on and so forth. So if you understand the framework and you understand the script, the more times you do it, it's like riding a bicycle or shooting a basketball, right? Whatever you guys did as kids and you got really good at it, it's because you had repetition and you knew what was coming next. Well, same thing here. When we present, when we run an audit, when we present our solution, we know what's coming next, and we know when we can position those yes questions, right, to get the response that we want. So we revisit the pain, and then, right, we agree, Mr. Customer, that managed services, cybersecurity, compliance as a service, these are the hottest topics that are out there in the marketplace that you need to get answers for. Right. And that's exactly how we've planted the seed of what we do here for them. So let me just pull this up to reiterate that. Again, right, we're planting the seed at the very beginning of the conversation. So this is just reiterating everything that we've said and done up to this point. We revisit the pain and we expose the wound. So now that we've done that, now we've got to show them the substance of what we've done to progress things. So we ran a phase one with our brand ambassador, the CIO level consultant. We asked a lot of questions. We pulled in our vendors. That was a very efficient use of everyone's time. And then we set up the 2.5 meeting on site. The MSP came out, the brand ambassador came out, shook some hands, kissed some babies, right? And the customer is now loving us because we have a methodical process that we're putting them through to get to the results. Well, now the phase three, that is the results. So here we go. Mr. Customer. Let me see. Pull this over. Mr. Customer. So here's what we did. We came out and we did a scan, right? And these scans that everyone's going to do, no customer wants to go through these scans. They're boring as hell. No customer really cares about seeing 58 pages of a network assessment. I know that I don't, right? This bores me to tears just scrolling through these first few pages of looking at this. So the assessments are a speaking point, and if there's something relevant that jumps out at us that we want to point out, we go straight to that. Otherwise, right, we show our credibility and our capability and we move quickly through these. So Mr. Customer, we came out, we did a network assessment. We tested your network to see what devices, what was touching your network, every component. You said you had 80 users here. Well, and each one of them had one device. Well, it turns out there's 387 devices touching your network. You've got machines still in use. You've got printers that no one's using, still plugged up. All these are risk and liability that the bad guys can use to penetrate your network, to compromise your data, to create a ransomware scenario that just ruins your life. So we've got to clean up your network with everything that touches it. I'm not going to go through 58 pages of it today, but we're going to point out the things that are the most liable, and we're going to fix those things first if you choose to move forward with us. The next thing we did is we did a data assessment. We came in and we ran reports on all types of data, right? Anything that has to do with your company, software's data, any and all things through a company called ActiveFile that helps us run these reports. And then we can even give examples, right? Once we run these reports of things that we can do to improve from these reports. Again, if there's something relevant we want to dig into this data scan that we do, then we talk about it. If not, and this is where the brand ambassador and the MSP are collaborate beforehand to make sure that, hey, we got this, because we're going to run those meetings together. These phase 3 meetings, we're going to present and run those together, because the brand ambassador, the sales guy, he's positioned it and he's got this strategy of around how we're going to impulse and close. But the MSP needs to be there from a technical perspective, right, to reiterate some of these reports and scans and why they are the way that they are and what we need to do about it. So it's a tag team approach during these phase 3 meetings. And just a disclaimer there, the brand ambassador can run the phase 3 solo, but you as the MSP being there are going to complement them, right? Significant. So, and we want that, right? This is where we want to start to build your brand and your personal relationship, your rapport with the customer, your credibility. So they like you, they like your company, they want to move forward because we've reiterated everything that we position you to be with them. So we've got our data scan. We've then got our dark web scan that we do to test all of your employees and to see if any of your information is out on the dark web that has to do with your domain. So this is just an example copy of what this would look like, but this is basically going to be for every employee to see if any of your credentials are out there on the dark web. And you can see here 19 accounts with data breaches. That creates a sense of an alarm on the inside going off. We're like, okay, how do we fix this? What do we do? And then we'll be able to speak to how our solutions can solve these problems, right? Password vaults, changing their passwords, right? Ever so often, so they don't have to worry about these credentials being compromised. Proactive dark web scans, to where literally if we see anything with their domain on the dark web, it notifies us and we can proactively address it right then versus waiting for that to be addressed reactively. And then your people scan. Mr. Customer, this is the phishing simulation that we did on your employees. You can see here 14 emails were sent, 1 was open. So one person clicked on the link that was a full-blown ransomware attack that penetrated and took over all of your network, took over your data, and literally compromised your entire business, all because one person clicked on a link that they shouldn't have. And we've got some different levels of these phishing simulations that we can run to whether we want to do an easy, a medium, or a hard scenario. We can run these phishing simulations that are obvious that, hey, it should obviously be known to them that's a phishing attack. And then we've got some really harder ones that looks like it literally, it's impossible to tell that that is a phishing attack. And if they don't have the wherewithal to say, hey, you know what? I should go check this out. Before I click this link, I should go verify and then phone call to make sure that this is a real person. I actually did that I learned this phishing simulation because a person reached out to me on LinkedIn. And if we hadn't have set up fake LinkedIn accounts for marketing purposes, I would have never had this idea to literally confirm this person and vet them out before I clicked on their link. So Facebook, LinkedIn profiles, it's an easy avenue for employees to fall victim to a phishing attack because it looks real. They get an email, the domain looks real, they don't catch the two letters that are misplaced. They go to LinkedIn, the person's profile looks real, they click on it, and boom, next thing you know, their company's compromised. So we educate them on the phishing simulation that we did, right? We can run some security tests. There's thousands of reports, right? We want to stick to a network scan, a data scan, an application software scan, right? Like their Salesforce, their Office 365, a dark web scan, and then a phishing simulation on their people, right? Those those five, excuse me, all feed into the cyber assessment. So we don't spend a ton of time on these reports because customers don't care. It bores them to tears, and we want to stay fresh and relevant. We want them to like us. So when they see your solution, they want to move forward. So, Mr. Customer, all this to be said, I could spend all day sitting here talking about these scans and these reports. What really matters to you is the fact that we know what we're looking for. So when we take all of these scans and we plug them into our full assessment, this is what we see, right? We see that your workstations and your servers are at risk, your operating systems are at risk. This is just more items here that are highly at risk based on what these scans show us. I want to scroll down here. The way that your customers virtually VPN and connect to you, because they're all working remotely. The process and procedure of how they do that has you guys at risk. So we need to level this up and implement a process and procedures that are going to create a level of cybersecurity that keep this from making you guys vulnerable. Okay. And then the big thing is we see your intrusion detection and prevention, okay, is highly at risk. And this is the thing that we see the most with business customers. You don't have any endpoint detection in response. It's literally, if we get attacked and something happens, we go into reactive mode. I had a customer who was I had a CFO with his consultant. He had a consultant CIO on the call, and we were talking about changing their managed services. They had an internal guy, and they had an MSP that they outsourced some stuff to. And we were talking about changing their managed service provider over to one of our partners. And then we were talking about implementing an endpoint detection response. And this is what he said to me. He said, we don't need endpoint detection and response because we have a cloud, a business continuity plan put in place that if something did happen, we would just be able to follow through with that. So I literally looked at the CFO on the Zoom call and I said, Mr. CFO, what he's saying is he's okay with you flying blind, having an attack, and relying on your backup protocol to restore to back before the attack happened to get you fully back into business to where you don't have to worry about losing any of your data and being able to operate. And the problem is if that is compromised, you're done. You pay the ransom and you pray to God that your brand and your image and your customers and your data aren't ruined forever. And you just got to ask yourself, are you willing to risk it? What is your risk tolerance for that kind of liability and exposure? And the next words out of the CFO's mouth were, set up the demo for the 24/7 SOC solution because I'm not willing to rely on backup for my fiduciary responsibilities as the CFO of this organization to protect us. So this report tees up that, hey, Mr. Customer, you have no endpoint detection. You have no proactive approach of how you're protecting your employees, your data, your brand, your image, and we need to change that, right? It's not good enough to rely on reactive solutions anymore. We have to have these proactive solutions and applications and plans in place. And we're going to talk about that here in a moment. But I just wanted you to see this comprehensive report that we've created. Now that we've come on site and we've done these scans, right? It covers all these different areas of your business. And then it summarizes, here's all the ones that are at risk across all these different areas. So this area of red, I'd pick out the ones that are most relevant, and I'd spend your time just speaking to those briefly, because again, even this full comprehensive assessment right? We don't want to bore them to death talking about this. All they care about is results, right? Results of the solution, what it does, and what's the price. And that's what we've got to substantiate and justify now that we go to present. Okay, so any questions from anybody before I move on, because I'm doing all the talking right now, on the scans and then our full comprehensive report where we hone in on with the color coding on where their liability is before we move into presenting our solution and our pricing that's going to get us to that 250 per user MRR that we're looking for. Everybody tracking? Everybody good?
Scott, typically how long are these meetings that are being ran by the BA?
Yeah, so we schedule our phase 3 presentations for 1 hour with the customer.
I have a question.
Go ahead, David.
Okay, and I'm sure other people have thought of this. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So we had been talking internally here in the office about, and I hate to use the word lure, but in an effort to try to sell this and put a pretty nugget on the cybersecurity and this whole market that we're attempting to sell, an insurance, kind of like a LifeLock type thing. I know probably everyone's heard of LifeLock and how we offer $1 million to protect your identity, that whole thing. Is that something that can possibly sweeten the deal? Like, hey, if you have an attack or if there's a problem after these services are put in place by us, we will provide up to $1 million of, help recover, something like that. I think you guys know where I'm going with that. Does that make sense to anybody? Honest question.
Absolutely, and I'm going to talk about that when we present our solution, right?
Okay.
I've put a relationship in place. Sentinel One offers $1 million policy if you use their endpoint detection and response.
We're
a lot
using
of those
them.
companies have moved to that direction, and all they've done is put a relationship in place with, Chubbs is the biggest insurance provider in the world, in our industry. They just have those relationships in place. I've put one in place with Cysurance, the CEO of Cysurance, and for our partners to be able to partake in. And I'm going to talk about that when we present the solution, how we include a warranty and how we include cyber insurance in our policies, our packages, if they choose to go with us, David.
Okay.
Great point that I'll cover.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Okay. So we've done our scans, we've done our full comprehensive report, and we've pointed out, hey, here's where the risk, the liability, the exposure is, down to the detail. Down to the detail. I was just having a conversation with Don, who I think I saw Don just join, him and Scott. We have an assessment that we're jumping through hoops last minute to build a solution. We rolled right in to the phase 2 with them, had the technical discovery. The customer didn't have time to answer all the questions, right? Customer didn't have time for us to come on site and to do our scans, to create the full comprehensive report so that we can educate and inform them and make the recommendations. Well, if they don't have time for the most important thing in their business, we got to make sure that that we literally punch them in the face. You got to slow the hell down and listen to us, because this matters, right? IT and cybersecurity and compliance, like this will shut you down. Your busy schedule, you'll have plenty of time on your hand if you don't listen to us right now. And we have to be that blunt. We have to be that direct with customers to say, we got to slow down. We've got to do it the right way, right? And this involves technicians in time, and that's a cost. So these scans and reports, the way that the brand ambassador is going to tee those up at the very beginning of the phase 2 is, Mr. Customer, we're going to have a technical discussion today. At the end of this, we're going to give you some free gifts, your heat map, and the ability to make some recommendations at a high level. But you're going to have the option to take this to another level where we come on site, we run these scans, do these scans and create these reports and create this full comprehensive cyber assessment and make detailed recommendations that are specific to where you're at and where you need to go. And if you don't allow us to do that, well, there's no way that a human being could answer the questions on the information that we need, right? If we don't scan the dark web, if we don't simulate the phishing attack, right? If we don't scan the network, if we don't scan your software and your data, it's just impossible for us to custom tailor it. So that's the conversation that has to be had. And so best case scenario, we could give you a proposal that was contingent based on what we think in here, but there's no way that's going to be final. There's no way that's going to be the end result. So you can't count on that. And when you speak to customers and you go against the grain and you push back when everyone else is saying, oh yeah, you want a proposal? Here you go. That's when you're going to stand yourself apart from the competition. So I'm going to jump on a call here in a few hours and we're going to punch this customer in the face with the truth and the reality of what has to happen for this to be done the right way. And then at least they're educated and informed and they can let us know how they want to move forward from there. But anyways, coming back to this, we show them that now, once we've walked them through this, we've built tons of credibility, right? We've talked about risk and exposure that we've uncovered from these scans, from these reports. Now we have our solution that we're going to recommend that is going to solve their biggest problems because it's going to bring people and applications and process and procedure that they just don't have. And then I'm going to show you guys how we make it easy for them. And then I'm going to show you guys some examples. The month just ended and we closed a ton of managed security and cyber deals. So I'm going to pull some of those over and just share those with you guys so you can see what's to come, right? Once we're doing this on a routine basis for you in your market and you're doing it inside of your company with every customer every time. Okay, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to pull up my primary color solution that I did just because I built this workbook myself. And we start to walk through, I always start with the services that are least important. And it's not that all of them aren't important, but there's ones that they need to make some changes on. And there's others that it'd be nice for them to make some changes on. Right. So I usually start with the UCAS and the bandwidth. No offense to any of our national partners that might watch this, and that's their primary line of business. But UCAS, there's 1,000 million UCAS providers out there. So we'll start with what they're doing today, what our new solution is going to do, the savings that comes from that, and then we'll move to the data network. We'll show them how they go. In this scenario, this customer, they had a cloud-based firewall. There was CenturyLink. They had multiple locations with fiber. They had multiple providers. It was just it was a perfect scenario to create a much better network and create a ton of savings while increasing their bandwidth at the same time, right? So we built this data network. We changed all those things. When we get to the MSP solution, right? Again, remember, they had an internal IT department and people on it. This was a CIO package that we sold to this customer with a co-managed Office 365 solution. It was $3,564 a month, and it was $1,000. It was $1,000 increase in spend before we even looked at cloud and cybersecurity protection. So we've already been able to, or we were able to justify them spending more money to get a higher quality relationship than what they had today. Before we added on all these other services, and then their cloud services, and then the summary. So we put together their current solution, and then we have our recommended solution. This customer was spending $21,000 a month on services, and what we were doing is we were improving the technology. We were impacting their P&L with a positive ROI from typically, I would say, even if we're not providing a hard dollar cost savings, the soft dollar cost savings is going to be substantially worth it. And the soft dollar savings is their employees' time, right? And how efficient they get to become at doing their job because they have the right technology in place. We have a risk calculator that we show, hey, if you're down for an hour based on your payroll, right, this is what it's costing you. If you're down for a day, if you're down for 10 days, if you have a cyber breach and the typical downtime is 10 to 20 days, this is your liability. So these applications, these people, these processes, they become like insurance, and the customer decides based on business need, budget, and risk tolerance what they're willing to move forward with. And what we do is we make it easy by consolidating all the information, educating them on what their options are, and then putting a plan in place that they can follow to smoothly and seamlessly implement these solutions. So here on this customer, you can see that we took some commodity services and MSP relationship that she absolutely hated. She inherited that, right? And we moved them over to better solutions with our hand-picked, vetted MSP local in the market that was going to come in and provide co-managed solutions at all 3 of their offices for 175 employees. And then from there, it blossomed into them adding on email archiving and backup, password keeper for password protection for all their employees, so they don't have to change the emails, and then SentinelOne endpoint detection and response for 175 employees, a 2625 add-on that the MSP literally bills the customer and answers the phone if they call, right? $18,000 was this consolidated solution when it's all said and done, and we still save the customer $2,000 a month. So we don't always create savings with cyber and compliance and CISO services. As a matter of fact, most customers are going to be spending money that they don't have allocated in a budget today. And small businesses usually aren't sophisticated with a budget at all, right? They're literally spending money on what they have to, and that's it. Medium to enterprise, they may have a budget. And what's beautiful about this, to benefit all of us, is whether there's a budget or not, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I was talking to Don about this also with this customer. It doesn't matter what the price point that you're used to selling at was, because things are different now, right? We educate and inform the customer on what it has to be moving forward. And what it has to be is someone has to own the CISO responsibilities in the company. If you're not going to pay someone as a fractional CISO to do it, then you got to do it. And your job is the CFO, or your job is the IT director, and you're not really qualified for that. And it's a full-time responsibility on a part-time basis. So are you going to own it, or are you going to delegate it? And then from a compliancy perspective, well, even if you're not in a regulated industry, guess what? Insurance companies aren't going to pay if you don't show that you followed due diligence standards to be compliant as you possibly could be, even if you're not a regulated industry. And then we throw out facts. There's 400,000 ransomware attacks a day. Last year, $350 million of ransomwares were paid out to the bad guys, and only 51% of those were covered by insurance companies. What we're offering you here, Mr. Customer, when you look at this solution, is a hand-picked, and let me just pull this back up to reiterate this so you guys connect the dots. Going back to what makes our MSPs unique is a hand-picked, vetted company that's been put through a rigorous MSP development process that's MSSP certified or in the process of becoming MSSP certified, that has the cybersecurity applications, that has the behavioral learning, that has the CISO certified and capable individuals to provide the compliance as a service to you. And then, David, to your point, they also have the cyber warranties and insurance providers that they can include as a part of this package. So we can sweeten the deal as MSPs by including a cyber warranty. The difference in warranty and insurance is warranty is predefined. Employee negligence. Okay, predefined. If somebody clicks on something and they shouldn't, that's going to be covered. If we have a ransomware attack, okay, predefined. That happens, we're going to be covered, right? Warranty, like on your car, your transmission warranty. If your transmission goes out, it's covered. So same thing, warranties are predefined items. We can include that, and it's very economical. 20, 25 bucks a month, right? We can include $250,000 to a $500,000 warranty as a part of our managed security solution that we're providing to this customer. And that's what creates all the check marks on the right side of the screen. And that's what gives the customer the peace of mind that Blue Equinox and our MSP partners have went through, and we've did the R&D. We've educated ourselves on best practices and what customers need. And now we're bringing those to them to recommend. And if they want to do business with somebody that knows what needs to be done, well, we're that company. If they want to do business with somebody that's still living in the Stone Age, taking care of computers and servers, not really being an advisor and helping steer the ship, then they might want to go with that cheaper option, because that's what they're going to get. You get what you pay for, right? Love it, David. In our market in Mississippi, this will sell. And that's every market. That's for every single one of you. I don't care if your price point, the average price point for managed services right now nationally. I just went to a conference last week in Austin with a guy that I didn't even know up until 3 weeks ago. And one of our MSP partners introduced this guy to me. And I actually went to his conference in Austin. Wes was just on, he just dropped it, looks like 2 seconds ago. But I went and I was there with Wes and David, and I met this guy. He's got 350 MSPs in his program, and he coaches on marketing and sales only. Well, we provide the marketers and the salespeople to go do the job, but we literally have the exact same framework of how we run a meeting with a customer and how we create meetings, right? And the average price points, the synergies are off the page, right? And he says it just like I say it. It doesn't matter what market you're in. It doesn't matter what industry we're in, because cybersecurity, it knows no specific industry or person or company or employee count. All it knows is opportunity and risk, right? Because people are unprotected and they haven't went through the motions of really proactively preparing themselves to be protected. So when we come in with CISO packages and cybersecurity options, with applications and processes and procedures, with compliance as a service, right? So it's two-pronged, cybersecurity compliance, but you got to have the people in order to oversee and deploy and to manage and document and all those things. Well, no one else is really doing that. That's how we're going to crush the competition every single time. So as we present this solution and we point out that we are all these things unique, coming back to here. So Mr. Customer, now after we've walked through the pros, the pros of each one of our recommendations here on what it does for them, okay? That's when we go for the close and we make it easy. So Mr. Customer, with all of this being said, I just want to pull up the roadmap. And I want to get your input at this point. So when we look at your roadmap today, this is where you're at. We've agreed at the end of the phase 2 that these areas of your business were red, and we'd like to look at solutions that improve those. Well, we did the scans, we've created the reports, we've built the solutions that can absolutely do that for you. And at this point, I'd like to take these different silos of IT in your business, and I'd like to take them from red to green. But what I'd like to get from you here now is your input. We could do all of these projects at once with your dedicated project manager that I'm about to talk about. We could implement, manage, and maintain these solutions for you 100%. But the question boils down to, based on your business, your budget, and your risk tolerance, and the benefit that you see here in Blue Equinox and our MSP partner, what to you feels like the most important thing to get taken care of first? And now, after they've received all this education information, we've put them in a position where they can really start to take control of this idea, of this decision to implement these solutions, and they can go back and they can be the superstar and the rock star to their company. And that's what we tell whoever we're talking to about, look, we're here to be we live in the shadows. We live to educate and inform you, so you are the rock star right inside of your company, whether it's the executives to the board, right? Whether it's the chairman of the board, whether it's the IT director, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They get to be the rock star. We live in the shadows. And at the end of the day, guess what? We get paid, so we don't care. As long as we get paid, we love the shadows. right? They take all the glory, and we get their input. And what do you think they're going to say when we have created all this relevancy around putting in the people that are going to have the security knowledge, right, to deploy cyber applications and processes and procedures and compliance and documenting and creating, improving, right, the paper trail every single month. They're going to start there. They're going to say, well, obviously the managed IT, right? We've got to level that up. In our cybersecurity, that's got to change because we don't have cybersecurity. You know, firewalls and antivirus, that's not anything. That's nothing. That's like putting a kindergartner at the Afghanistan United States embassy right now saying, hey, protect this place. That's what a firewall and antivirus is. So we get their input. They tell us which projects are more important. And if they want to push out a project because they don't want to bite off too much at one time, right? That's fine with us. We don't care as long as they're moving forward with the things that matter most. And that is to our managed service providers, the MSP, the cyber, right? The backup, the business continuity. Now we've got their buy-in. So, okay, Mr. Customer, I think that's a great plan. I'm going to change those from red to green here. This is the time frame that we could literally take you from where you're at today to full implementation. And it's honestly, it doesn't take 90 days. We can literally have customers fully implemented in 30 to 60 days for the size of customers that we're targeting. So once we go over the roadmap, now this is where we put the nail in the coffin. So check this out. Mr. Customer, we've talked about a lot of things, and you might be thinking to yourself that, wow, this is going to be a heavy lift for me. It's going to take a ton of my time. Well, Blue Equinox has been in business for 16 years, and we learned a long time ago that if you make it easy for customers to say yes, you can do business with a lot of people a lot faster than if they got to try to figure it out on their own, how they're going to implement and manage these new solutions that we've talked about. So what we've done is we created a white glove process of how we don't point fingers at anyone. We want you to lean on us for everything. We work with all your vendors to solve all your problems. And the way that we do that is we assign a dedicated project manager from Blue Equinox that's literally going to logistically manage the communications, the implementation, the on-site visits with you, with any and all providers that we bring to the table. If you've got project managers in these MSPs, your project managers can take lead. Our project managers will be in the background, ensuring that the dates and the milestones all get met. And we document everything in our systems, and we manage all the different providers if there's multiple solutions. I'll give you guys an example. We had a UCAS deal and a managed service deal that got sold. $3,000 MSP cloud and cyber deal, and then a UCAS deal that went somewhere else. We didn't get the UCAS business. They signed off on that before they got a chance to know about Blue Equinox and our MSP. Well, the UCAS deal went sideways as all get out. The customer hated the experience, right, with the UCAS. I won't get into the details, but it was really bad. They didn't have a project manager. So we offered, hey, our project manager will logistically manage that. Even though we aren't getting paid on it, we'll oversee it because you're doing business with our MSP. That level of added professional services resonates with customers more than I can express with words. Like your people make the experience everything that it's going to be with the customer. And if we bring in people that are trained to be this white glove experience, to be this concierge, to constantly keep them in the loop and to be a point of contact, well, it gives customers a peace of mind to say, wow, right, all things considered, there's several different providers that can provide this solution, but none of them provide this extra layer of professional service with people. And here's what it looks like, tangibly what it looks like. Mr. Customer, when's the last time you had someone give you an escalation list with cell phone numbers and emails all the way up to the CEO? That's what Blue Equinox does. Every customer we get, just so you guys know, gets this document. They're going to do business with you as a provider, but they're also going to do business with us as a consultant. So we give them the project managers, the account managers, we give them the 5 levels of escalation, and then we show them after 16 years of doing this, we've created this 37-step guide of how we implement new solutions for customers to ensure a smooth and seamless as possible transition. No transition's ever flawless and perfect every time. Sometimes we get lucky, but for the most part, something's going to come up. There's going to be some bumps. There's going to be some data, right, that needs to be gathered, something. That's what these people are for. So this is ultimately what makes it easy for the customer to say yes to these $20,000 solutions. So we're running out of time, but I just want to pull over and show you guys, right, that this is real, right? Here's a $6,000 deal right here, or excuse me, a $4,600 deal that Derek got signed Thursday last week. Got this deal signed for a customer that needs managed services and they need backup. Here is another deal that got signed up in Chicago, this open door rehab. This is a flat rate, $61.89 for everything that they need. Everything that we've talked about, right, is included in this solution, but they don't get to nickel and dime it and say, oh, well, I don't want that, I don't want this. No, Mr. Customer, this is your solution. Everything is included. It's all encompassing, because that's what it's going to take in order for us to not have liability as your professional IT service provider. So you don't get the luxury, right, of saying, oh, I think I can do without the cybersecurity training. Nope, that's included. I don't get the luxury of not having the 24/7 SOC. Nope, that's included. Along with the managed services, all you can eat at $150 a user, managed services. That's what we want to go for. If we have to scale back to the hybrid solution, right, at $125 a user, and they pay if we come on site, well, that's okay, because it's still highly profitable MRR that we're getting. And if we have to use tech time, well, they're going to pay a premium for that, right? Let's see, we got a small deal in Nashville that Andrew got signed for Bytes of Knowledge. They just bought the RMM patching, monitoring remote users. They just bought the tools to be able to use, and that was $2,100 for 72 endpoints for just the tools that they're using. This is a 50+%, 60+% deal of profit for Bytes of Knowledge in Nashville, because they just wanted to move forward with the tools. That's fine. We've got these applications. We can sell them the tools and they can use them. And if they want to add managed services and cyber and move forward with a full suite of services that we offer, that's fine. So this conversation resonates with customers. They get it, they see it, they realize they have to have it. And when we're able to tell the story and articulate it from beginning, going back to the appointment setters, the very beginning all the way to the very end, right? We go full perspective from start to finish and deliver the results of why they came. Then there's no reason when we have, to use David's word earlier, lured, I use seduce. We've seduced them through the sales process to where now they fell in love with us. They fell in love with the results that they're going to get. They fell in love with the peace of mind that they're going to have once they get us, right, you and Blue Equinox, into the equation in these applications and these services. At that point, we ask for the business. Mr. Customer, if you like what you see, you like what you hear, all we need is to send over the LOA. That allows us to dot the I's, cross the T's, and to get these services rolling. At that point, they're either going to say, I love it, let's do it. And we send it, they sign it, just like these orders that you saw, or they're going to say, I've got some questions. I want to see a demo, right? The SOC solution. I want to see the portal. I want to see something. Okay, no problem. We'll set that up. And at the end of that phase 4 meeting where we demo or answer the Q&A, at that point, right, we'll be in a position where you need to make a decision. Are we moving forward and solving these problems, or are you going to accept the risk, liability, and exposure? Does that make sense? And we get that yes. So we know if we don't close them at the end of the phase 3, we got one more meeting to show them and for them to wrap their mind around whatever that service or application is. And then at that point, it is a go or no go, because we're done we're not wasting time, right? We're literally going to get a decision of whether we're moving forward now or we're putting a pin in it, and we'll revisit it, right, 30, 60, 90 days from now. Okay, any questions about how we present our solutions during a phase 3? I'd love to take a few questions if you guys have any. So let me see, who do I have on here? So Derek, you closed a massive amount of business. You got a $40,000 MRR funnel. How's this methodical process of phase 1 through 3 that we are now executing on? How's this helping you as a sales guy really just keep the customer excited about what we're doing here? And you're muted.
It just really shows that we do care about the customer. We want to get deep. And plus, it kind of gives the customer that opportunity to opt out if they're not serious up front. When we run the phase 2 and try to set up that phase 2.5, you really get a good pulse reading on whether or not they're legit, willing to spend $1,000 if they don't move forward with something, or they were really just putting their big toe in the water and ready to run the other way.
Beautiful. So just so you guys know, the assessment, right, we start at $1,000. If it's a bigger company, we'll raise it, the price of that. But we literally get a commitment from them that, hey, we're going to do the work, but you're either going to move forward with our solution or you're going to pay for the scans and the reports that we create. Because the moment you engage our techs, right, that takes away from our time to make money, and time is money. And what that does is it shows people, hey, it's time to put your mouth, right, your money where your mouth is, if you want this cyber assessment. And then 2, it brings more value to what we're doing, because when people pay for, you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for, guys. So when we tell them that they got to pay for it, it just takes it to a whole nother level. Logan, with your, you just closed a massive deal up in Chicago, like $10,000 MRR total all in. How did this process, right? How did it contribute to you closing that deal, where before you came here and became a brand ambassador and had this framework, right, you may not have been able to pull that deal off at that magnitude?
Yeah, I mean, the process is completely different, and being able to showcase it and showing what, hey, this is what you're getting today. I mean, they're only spending $1,000 with their existing MSP, and now we're getting them to be paying $6,000 for their MSP. So 6 times what they were paying today. But we're really showcasing, hey, you don't have any of this, so you're essentially just burning that money, and you weren't getting, and you had all these liabilities. Which once they saw that, it made sense, and from everybody else, they're looking at another MSP as well. Us being able to showcase and show it right in their face made it so much easier for them to make the decision to do it with us.
Beautiful. So guys, on that note, that's a perfect example right there. When we can get somebody to spend 6 times what they're spending today, you know that our process works. You know that our process works when we get someone to spend 6 times what they're spending today. And what I love is just the fact that they start to realize this great MSP relationship that I thought I had is not that great. And it's because those MSPs have been complacent, and they haven't evolved, and they haven't came and educated their customers. And that's why doing account management for us, all of us here, is so important, because we have hundreds, if not thousands, of customers that need to have this conversation, just like every new customer has. So I'm going to leave you with that, because we're going to have Insight Data. We're going to have those guys join me in a few weeks, and we're going to talk about the QBR, the quarterly business review, and how we use their data to do the QBRs and create this full comprehensive report. The one I showed you guys is from their software, lifecycle management, that comes from when we enter in all of that data and use their software to track our customers. I believe they're the 29th. So 3 or 4 weeks from now, they'll be joining us for a training session on how to use the software and create those reports. But we're 8 minutes over today. For everybody that came, thank you so much. I hope this helped paint a picture of how we present in the phase 3, how we tag team with the MSPs to really drill home the significance of how we're unique and why these solutions are so needed and why it's not an option for them to try to pick it apart to save money, to take shortcuts. They got to go with a host solution if they want to be compliant and to have a proactive and reactive approach to cybersecurity. These things they can't compromise on, and we're going to be there to insist on it. And when people are watching that knows what they're doing, it's hard for them to back away and to go the opposite direction. So they're going to have no choice but to say, yes, let's do it. Implement your solutions and let's bill $250 per user. And that's what we're ultimately after. So thank you guys again. Have a beautiful day, and I will talk to you guys next week.
You guys have a safe Labor Day weekend.
You too, David. See you, buddy.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.